Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? This week on the Health by Haven podcast, we have my friend Megan Cottage back on the show. Megan was on episode 24 of the podcast where she talked about the Chicago Marathon and getting to run the social media accounts for the Chicago Marathon during race weekend as part of her job. And today she is back talking about a different world marathon major. She just ran the 2025 London Marathon. And so in the episode, she tells us all about the race. She recaps her training, her race day experience, and her trip across the pond. So definitely want to tune in for this one to hear all things London Marathon. All right, Megan, thank you so much for coming back on the Health by Haven podcast. I am so thrilled to get to chat with you again today. You were on episode 24 of the show, and I'm so excited to have you back because you just ran the London Marathon. So I cannot wait to dive into all of the details.
Yes, thank you, Haven. I did just run the London Marathon. I don't even think I've been home maybe a little more than 12 hours. So it's been a whirlwind, but it's done, it's dusted, and the medal has been brought back.
I love it. And for everybody, before we got online, Megan showed me her medal, and it's so very cool. So maybe we'll have to share a picture in the stories when your episode comes out. But first of all, yeah, you literally flew back to the States yesterday. So how are you feeling? Did you get some rest last night?
I am okay right now. I think when 5 p.m. hits, I'm going to be dragging. It was a long travel day. It was almost 17 hours because there was a layover, and then, just the whole customs and passport control and all the things took a while. But it was good. I did business class over because, you're about to run a marathon. You need some sleep. It was a red eye. So I was like, let's splurge and do business class over.
Yeah.
And then I knew the economy back was going to be horrible. Just going from business back to economy is just going to be a struggle. I didn't know how bad it was going to be. Their little kid behind me kept getting sick.
Oh, no.
So it was just like an 8 hours flight of horrible, I felt so bad for him, and he couldn't help it, but it was like, wow, I really missed my business class seat. Yesterday was tough.
No kidding. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I want to get into all of the details. So let's start way back before you even hopped across the pond. What did your training schedule look like? Because you were coming off another marathon cycle, right? To train for London.
Yeah. I kind of never stop these days, which we might need to change if we're being honest, but I had done a few, I guess, halves. My last marathon was a year ago. It was Boston. And then I had done a few halves in between, and we really just started ramping back up for London in January. And I knew this training cycle was going to be a little different. I have a lot on my plate at work. There were 2 major sponsorships that I was managing that were hitting right before before the London Marathon, one being the Boston Marathon and one being the Masters. And so I just knew the month of April was going to be absolutely nuts for me. And it was fine. We knew it was coming. We were going to train for it. I worked with my coach, and, she had me doing all the long runs basically leading up to the first week of April, which in a normal cycle, I probably would have done one more long run in April, but time and travel just didn't allow for that. So we knew this training cycle was going to be tough and a little different, but it worked out. We did it. I do think there was like maybe 3 weeks in like February, March where I was just working and running. Like that was all I was
Yeah.
doing. And so really just trying to keep an eye on the prize at that point was what I was doing. I'm like, this is going to be worth it. It's going to be a great experience. We just have to get through these next few weeks. So definitely a little bit of a different training cycle. I didn't hit the 20 miles that I usually do. I only went up to 18. But I feel like half of a marathon is a mental game. So you do have to train your body, but you have to get your mind right too. And that's the important part.
Absolutely. And man, it is tough getting out there in the winter months when it's cold and it's dark. So I can totally empathize with you on the like, you feel like all you're doing is working and running. So props to you for pushing through that. And then especially during like a busy work season as well. But I also totally agree about the mental aspect of running. So it probably did help that you've run a marathon before. You knew, like, in your mind, like, I've done this, I can complete this. What number marathon was this for you?
This is lucky number 7.
Oh, so fun. Okay, so training cycle a little bit different. You mentioned working with a coach. Have you worked with a coach before in your other training?
I did for Boston. When I got into Boston, I was like, let's take this seriously and let's work with the coach. And she's amazing. She is always there to encourage me, whether that's you had a great run or, okay, you didn't have a good run. Let's fix it. Let's figure out, what the next step is. She's just my cheerleader in the background and she's so great. I'm so, so thankful for her because I think I have people in my life who support me, but it's just a little different when there's someone who gets it. They
Yeah.
fit in it, they do it. And she just knows what to say and when to say it. And like, yes, she supports me in my training and, physically writing out my workouts and figuring out what I should be doing physically, but just like emotionally too. She's just such a great support to have.
So wonderful to have for sure. Do you have anybody where you live that you train with, or are you doing a lot of solo runs?
So this training run or cycle was a little different in that regard because I am usually training alone, but I did have one friend running. I talked her into running London with me. So she was running London, and then we had another friend, a mutual friend, who was running the Nashville Marathon, which was the day before ours. So all of
Okay.
our training really lined up, and I got to do some training runs with them and they pushed me and the long runs that I did do with them, they honestly like made me better. That, when you get out there by yourself, when things get hard, it's so easy to just like, oh, I'm going to slow down. Like, it's just me. I'm not going to hold anyone back. And having them there to push me, was really a good experience. It showed me that I can do more than I think I'm capable of. And, just the conversations that you have for 9, 10 miles, it keeps your mind a lot more interested than just listening to music over and over again. I was so grateful for them. It was my last long run, like really long run. Their second to last, we had a little recovery night, which was just fun. We got the recovery boots out. We got the Theragun. We ordered DoorDash and we just watched movies. And it was just like really fun to experience that with them.
Oh my gosh, that honestly sounds like an ideal night as a runner. Like, let's just all lounge around and commiserate with each other on the sore legs.
Yep, that's exactly what we did. It was great.
So much fun. Okay. And then talk to us a little bit about your travel. When did you head on over to London? And then what did the days leading up to the race look like?
I took a red eye on Thursday night. Race was on Sunday. So we arrived in London around noon on Friday. And we hopped off the plane, went to our hotel, dropped our bags off, and went straight to the expo. And the expo is like actually rather far from the city. It
Oh,
took like an hour to get there by train, which was
wow.
quite a different experience. All the other majors, it's very much in the city. It's kind of its own sort of thing to do that weekend. And I mean, London's expo was definitely like an experience, but it was more just kind of a hassle to like go out that far, get
Mm-hmm.
there, make it before they closed because we obviously wanted to like go as soon as we could. We wanted to make sure we could get our jackets and, buy all the things you need, find your name on the wall, all the stuff. But that was Friday. And then that evening we just like hit up an English pub. We were like, let's get some English food. I think I did like a steak and ale pie, got the carbs in the mashed potatoes, got the carbs in the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Was trying to like mentally think of all those things because it was time to carb load. And then Saturday, we did a nice little shakeout run to the finish line, which was super fun. We grabbed breakfast and then we actually did afternoon tea. So we were like, this feels like a really good sitting activity the day before the
Yes.
marathon. And also like all the little finger foods and the scones and it was like carbs, 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 carbs. Let's do it.
Yes, I
So
love it.
fun. And then yeah, we just kind of took it easy the rest of Saturday, and Sunday was there before we knew it. It was the start line was also outside of London, so we had to take a train there. We got up probably around like 6 a.m. London time, and something I was super nervous about this training cycle was just like being international and not adjusting right to the time change.
Yeah, for sure.
There was like one point where I was like, do I just stay on East Coast time and try to like not acclimate? Because then my start time was 10:30 London time. So that would be like a 5:30 a.m. run here,
Oh, that's
which is something
true.
that I do often before work.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, should I? But then when we were talking it through and thinking, and it was like, okay, then we'd have to stay up till like, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And for London time,
Mm-hmm.
it would be too difficult. I think I adjusted pretty well. I was like kind of half adjusted by that time. So I was able to wake up. And also, do you ever really sleep before a marathon? I don't think it matters where you're at. Like, you're nervous,
Right.
you have a lot on your mind. So we got up at like 6 a.m. I had like my first breakfast at the hotel. We took the train out, which we're so thankful we got a seat because it was like a good 45 minutes or an hour train ride out there too. And that train was packed. So just that a little extra time, being able to sit and not have to worry about
Mm-hmm.
that before the race was great. And then we ended up doing this new initiative they have called the Green Team, which is where you signed up to not check a bag. So at big races, they'll like let you check a bag before they'll either transport it to the start, which is what would happen with this race because it was a point to point, or they just kind of have it in storage waiting on you. And so a lot of people put like food or clothes or different shoes in there, just something you want like immediately after the race. So it was called the Green Team because we were helping with emissions and like that they wouldn't drive our bag down to the finish line. So
Mm-hmm.
we signed up for that. And the perk was that you got to do the elite start. So we got to start and run the same course that the elites did,
Oh,
which was
fun.
super cool. And then they said that there would be extra bathrooms. I can't really tell you if there were or not because I haven't seen another like start at the London Marathon. At one point, the bathroom line got pretty crazy, and I was like, "Oh no, am I gonna even have time to go before the race starts?" But I think what ended up happening and where extra bathrooms came in is like once the elites started, they like opened up their area, and we got access to
Oh.
that. So, of course, the elites start way before I do, and they were long gone before I was using their bathrooms. But that was like a nice little perk. So if they do that again, and if anyone doesn't feel the need to check a bag, I would highly recommend. It was super, super simple and lots of room to spread out and just kind of like get in the zone before you started.
Yeah, that's a great pro tip. And I mean, it's a common thread on the podcast and among runners, like that bathroom line before a race. You don't think about it, but it's such a big deal on race
So
morning.
important. Yeah.
So, yeah. And for people who are listening who may not be familiar, some of these world majors, because they're so huge, they actually have a different route for the first few miles where there's like multiple starts going off to kind of help crowd control. And then the crowd kind of starts to thin out. So, do you know about how many miles until you merged with the rest of the runners?
Yeah, I think it was 4 to 5 in before we all kind of like merged together, and it was at different points. So the route I took when the race started, it was just a bunch of like small little English towns, and the courses downhill at the beginning. So you're feeling good. You're like off on fresh feet. You're ready to go, and there were just so many little families out there with little kids, and I probably got a little over ambitious, and I was like, I have to high five all the kids because they're just standing there with their little tiny hands out. And you're like, I can't run by you and like ignore that. It's too cute. So I did have to reel that in a little bit about 4 miles in. I was like, all right, I can't like dash all over the place to high five children. And then another thing that stood out to me is, I guess there was like a nursing home of some sort, and they had like wheeled all the, old people out in their wheelchairs, and they had signs, and they were just like sitting there cheering. It was the most wholesome thing. It was so cute. So that was like the first 4 or 5 miles. And then, yeah, we started merging together. And I think the like one negative thing I would say about London is that course was crowded once we started merging.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you feel packed in for most of the race?
I did, and I've not said that about any other major before. And it was like the entirety of the race.
Wow.
It was the whole way. It seemed like, we only kind of had like one side of the road, and I don't know if you have seen the news, but I guess it was officially the world's biggest marathon. So the most finishers ever. And it's funny. Apparently, I can go and get a world record holder medallion and certificate because I took part.
Wait, I love it.
Did I do that? Like,
I say go claim it. I mean, why not?
I think it's like 25 pounds or something. I mean, this might be something fun to have around, but
yeah,
it was definitely a crowded race, and not only on the runner side, but the spectator side too. The crowds came out, and I definitely think the crowds come out for every marathon, especially every world major marathon. But London was intense to the point where I didn't hear my music at all. Could not hear it in headphones. Couldn't. By the end, I was like, I couldn't really think. I just keep hearing my name screamed because, again, I put my name on my shirt. Love the cheers, but by 26 miles, you're like, whoa, this has been a lot.
Like overstimulating.
Yeah, honestly. And like, I feel so bad saying that because those people stand out there for hours, cheering you on. And it's definitely needed at points in the race. But there were times where I was like, I could use a dead spot or two. I need to like focus and get some quiet time. But
was there any sort of break from that? Because I know people talk about in New York, like running over the bridges is kind of like eerily quiet after all the cheering, but not in London.
No, not a single break at all. Yeah, it was crazy. To the point where I do intervals. So I will at points like run so long and then walk a little bit. And I have those intervals going off in my ear and I couldn't hear them. And I was struggling a lot because that's very much how I trained and what I do to kind of keep going. So I had to end up like putting my phone, I ended up putting it like in the top of my sports bra so I could feel it vibrate because I couldn't hear it.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. Yeah. But I mean, that is part of London. Like they're very much known for cheering for you and just having great spectators. They're also known for like always having outlandish outfits. So a lot of people dress up in costume. I saw a rhino, which I think he was running for charity, like save the rhinos. I saw like a huge rainbow. And we're talking like these things are 4 to 5 people big.
It's taking up the space in a crowded course.
Kind of. There were times where I was like, I really need to run this person, but I can't because their costume is so big.
Oh my gosh.
There was like I think they were a bunch of cans kind of set up like almost like beer pong, but that's definitely not what they were. And they were all running together. Like they were in this big box that they were holding, running together.
Oh, wow.
Finished right after them, and like they couldn't get into the area to get their medals because their costume was so big. It's wild. It's definitely a very interesting experience.
You are jogging my memory of my dad showing me a video from London last year, and a guy like dressed up as Big Ben, but like his costume was too tall to like go through the finish line.
Yes, it's crazy. And I mean, props to them. I'm out here struggling to run 26.2 miles by myself, and you're doing it in this huge costume. But it was definitely, it made for some good entertainment along the way.
That's true. Help get your mind off of it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and did you run with your friend that you went with, or were you guys in separate waves?
We both did the green wave, but I think we kind of knew from the start we wouldn't run together. We're
Yeah.
very much different paces, and we were kind of running our own race. We definitely trained differently, so we separated at the beginning. We started together, and I was like, "Have a good race. I'll see you later."
Yeah.
So no, we did not run together. I did end up running the race on my own terms and by myself.
Okay. And how were you feeling throughout? Like, what were the patches where you were like, this is fun, or, this is cool scenery? And what were the patches where you were like, okay, I'm like ready for this to be done?
Yeah. I think London was a very different race for me. I have just personally been dealing with some health issues and just had some personal things happen in the weeks leading up to the marathon where I was like, I just have to get to the start and I just have to get through this. So that was kind of my mentality the whole time. And that sucks because it's something you train for so long and you have in your head and things leading up just didn't really pan out for me. But I was like, I'm gonna do London, and thank goodness this is one of the more like fun majors, if you will. It's not like a serious race as like Boston or something like that. So I was okay going in and being like, I'm just gonna have fun today. So in the back of my head, I was anxious, just knowing all those things were kind of weighing on me. Around like mile 6-ish, I started kind of not feeling great. And I was like, gosh, we have a lot of this race to go. So I definitely pulled back a little. And it was a hot day. I think my phone at one point said it felt like 74 degrees.
Oh, geez.
So that might be the hottest marathon I've ran. And it's so crazy because this whole time I was expecting, like, it's London. I'm going to be running in the rain and it's going to be cold. That's a given, right? No, London was experiencing a heat wave. So it was a very hot marathon. But yeah, I do feel like after mile 6, I kind of just started getting into this zone where I was like counting down, like, okay, only 20 left. And it's not a good place to be. It's really, but that's kind of just where I was at. And I was just trying to play it so safe and finish strong. So mile 12-ish is the Tower Bridge. So that's what everyone says is iconic. I talked to people who had ran this before me, and I was like, just asking them in general about the race. And they were like, you'll be a changed person after you cross Tower Bridge. Like, it's just like a life-changing experience. And I don't know if I feel like I'm a changed person, but it was definitely a highlight of the race course.
Yeah.
But then right after Tower, you kind of hit the halfway point. And I'm sure you've seen this, but Nike has a huge running campaign where they just kind of have these like quirky, like smart off ads where they're funny, but when you're in the moment, it's like, really? So right at the halfway point, they had a sign that said, fancy another half. And I was laughing, but also like laughing and crying at the same time. Yeah.
A little bit cruel.
Thanks for the reminder. So we did that. I think like mile probably like 14, 15 through 20-ish, you're kind of like running beside people who are way ahead of you, which again is very much a mental game because you're like, oh my gosh, they have gone all the way out and back and they are almost done and I have that far to go. And so that was a little bit of a mental game in those miles. Then you also run through what I would consider like the city of London, that's the skyscrapers, all of that. And that kind of got like a little monotonous. It's like, I want to go see all those beautiful old buildings again. And, the cobblestone
Yeah.
streets, like this isn't the London that I have in my head. So that was probably 21, 22, and then 23, you start getting out of it. And the end of the race is really what's so iconic, which is nice because it's like something to look forward to. But yeah, about a mile and a half out, you see the London Eye. And so you're running by that, you're running by the water. You've made it past all the people where you were now running beyond them. They were the ones being like, oh my gosh, those people are so far ahead of me. So you're kind of in your own race again, which is nice. And you see Big Ben in the skyline up ahead, and you run by that and you turn right, and then you're headed straight for the castle. Well, it's not a castle, it's a palace. You're headed straight for the palace, which is kind of where the race ends. You run up towards it, you turn in front of it, and you end on, I think they call it like the mall in front of it with all the UK flags and all their colors. And that was a cool experience. Super fun finish. And it is something that definitely keeps you going. You're like, oh, I just gotta, see the London Eye in the distance, see Big Ben in the distance. And it keeps you going. The last mile is definitely one for sightseeing.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Like, way to end the race. And yeah, I mean, the race finish photos just look so iconic in front of Buckingham Palace. I mean, how magical. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous course, for sure. I will say, there's always like a long runner's chute out. Like after you finish the marathon, you're not done at 26.2.
Yeah.
You still have a long way to go to, if you checked your bag, you got to go get that. You get your free banana and protein shake and all the things they give you. And they usually push you, further out from the finish line. And my hotel was actually like back behind Buckingham Palace. So they kept pushing me down and I was getting further and further away from my hotel. Oh no. So I think this was probably the worst part of the marathon. And I'm so thankful I took my last gel because any of you runners out there know, like by the time you're at the end of the marathon, you're like trying to get that last gel down. You don't want it. A lot of the times you skip it because you're like, oh, I just got 2 miles left. It's fine, whatever it is. I'm very thankful I took it because it took me probably an hour to get like out of the race area.
Oh, geez.
Just the way the course was, you were kind of stuck in the middle of two sides of it, like the side running up to the palace and then the finish line side. And so there was one queue that everyone was using to get out, and it was like steps up and over the race course, which, steps after 26 miles is also not what you want to do, but just getting to those steps, I bet I waited in a line that was probably half a mile to a mile long, just like waiting to get up and over those steps. So thankful that I finished feeling okay. And I was able to, wait in that line and get back to my hotel. And I remember the group I was with, they were kind of texting in the group chat and they're like, what's the next move? And I was just like, food. I need food.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so tell us how you guys celebrated later that day.
We went and we just grabbed a beer. I am very much someone who it takes me a while to want to eat after a marathon. Like I know I need food, but you're just kind of, your stomach's not right. You haven't really eaten any like real food all day. You just have jolts in your stomach and you're not feeling great. And the more I talk about this, the more I'm like, why do I keep doing this to myself? It sounds horrible. But I usually just go for something like a little lighter and salty. So I did French fries at a food hall. We just which was a nice, like anyone can get what they want when they want. You weren't kind of like forced to one menu. So we went there, we grabbed some English beer. I had some fries and honestly, that was it. We were kind of tired after that, but
I mean, rightfully so.
It was nice to get out. It was nice to celebrate with friends. And that was our marathon experience.
I love it. Okay. So this was number 4 star for you? 3, 4?
Fourth one. Yeah.
4. So fun. Okay. So are you still, trying to check off those 6 stars, or I guess maybe 7 now if you're
Well,
gonna count Sydney.
yeah. Well, I cap at 6, I think. At some point, I think I just have to call it.
Hmm.
These are not cheap. These
Yeah.
not easy on your body. So I think, I set this goal of 6. I'm going to keep it to 6. If I hit 6 and I want to keep going, great. But right now
Hmm.
the eye is on 6. Um, I think though, like I mentioned, I'm having some health issues. I really need to figure those out before I get
Yeah.
into another marathon training cycle. I want to be healthy. I want to, take care of my body. So I really want to get that right before I start headfirst into another training cycle. So that's my current, immediate next goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's so important and like so good of you to do because it can be hard as runners when you're like, okay, what's the next thing? And especially when you know you have this big long-term goal. But yeah, like longevity in the sport and
Mhm.
taking care of your body should be number one. So that's great. Well, it was so fun hearing, all of your different adventures throughout London. And then you were there for another week. Yeah.
Yeah, another week. We went up to Edinburgh, which I had never been to. We took a train like through the English countryside and saw that, and that was super cool. And then I actually broke off from the group because they were going to go further up and do some hiking in the Highlands and all of that. And on my bucket list has always been to see the tulips in Amsterdam, and it
Mm.
is currently peak season. So I really couldn't pass that up. So I broke off. I did a little solo few days in Amsterdam by myself, and I got to see the tulip fields in full bloom. So that was another little highlight for me on this trip.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the photos look amazing. I can't even imagine like being there in person and seeing all of those.
It was gorgeous. And I didn't realize there are so many different types of tulips. And they're over there, the farmers are like trying to figure out how to like make new, I guess, species of them and new colors and all this. It was really cool to learn about. But yes, absolutely gorgeous. I really enjoyed it.
Amazing. Okay, well, out of the 4 majors that you've done, I'm not sure it's fair to ask you to rank them, but what do you think is your favorite as of now?
You know, I can't hold anything against London personally. I think the experience I had was very much like things that were going on in my life, but it is
Mm.
not my favorite. I still think Chicago might be at my top spot. And I think part of that was it was my first major. So,
Mm.
it's a whole new world when you start running races of that caliber, but that was like just pure magic experiencing that for the first time. Now I think I kind of know what to expect, and the bar is I guess it's just not as surprising um,
Yeah.
to have all those people out there cheering for you and just the whole experience. But I would probably rate Chicago. Boston was pretty magical too. But maybe Chicago, London, Boston, and New York is still at the bottom, and it will probably forever be at the bottom. I did not like New York at all.
Well, you heard it here, people.
Don't stress that we're not getting into that lottery. You're not missing anything. Totally kidding. It's a beautiful course, but New York is hard.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've heard. The bridges, they'll get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, everyone listening, if they didn't listen to your original episode, go back and listen to episode 24. You can hear more about your experience at Chicago, as well as like what the work side of things looks like for you being involved in the race. And later, I'm going to have to ask you all about Boston this year because I loved seeing all of your ad campaigns and everything there as well. But for those of our listeners who want to follow along, stay up to date on your upcoming races, whenever those may be, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My running side of things is meg.runs.disney. So lots of major stuff on there recently, but we still have some Disney races coming up in the fall. Don't worry.
Maybe you'll have to come back on and recap Disney when those ones happen.
Disney runs are great for sure. Definitely a different experience,
Yeah.
different type of race, but to each in their own ways, they are great.
Awesome. Well, Megan, it was so great getting to catch up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time, especially after a long travel day, to come and chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always happy to be here. Love chatting about this stuff with you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.